Welcome to Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff, where we interview newsmakers, storytellers, and all-around interesting people. Sit back, relax, unless you're driving, and enjoy the show. Here's Jackson.
Hello. I am Jackson Huff. This is Not in a Huff. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, really appreciate it. This week, going back into the world of interesting professions, learning about a really cool one today, and that is the life of a ballet dancer. You know, I'm from Indiana. I live in Indianapolis, so of course I found someone from the Indianapolis Ballet to speak with, and that's Yoshiko Kamikusa. She's just a really cool person. I have been to a few ballets. That's kind of how I found her. I'm going to tell her about that, but you know, she's always kind of one of the leads of a lot of the performances. So I thought, what better person to reach out to? So we talk all about what got her into ballet, what it means to be a professional ballet dancer. Obviously, a lot of people, know the term ballerina. I think they can be a little interchangeable, but we went with ballet dancer. Kind of shows us a little bit more of the art form that it is. We talk about what the process of becoming a professional is. We talk about the costuming. We talk about the shoes. I think that's going to really surprise people. Just the overall cost and how often they need new shoes. I talk about her favorite ballets and her least favorite ones, and of course about the Nutcracker that everyone knows about. Maybe that's the one that anytime anyone thinks of ballet, that's what they think about with Christmas time. But there's a lot of other ballets all throughout the year. This was a cool one, just kind of hearing the background of a profession that most of us don't have. What it means, day in and day out to make that your full-time profession. So I really appreciate Yoshiko's time. Glad she decided to join me. I think you're going to enjoy this one, whether you have been a ballet fan for years, or whether you've never been to a ballet, or just kind of want to hear about someone's unique profession. So without further ado, here is my interview with Yoshiko Kamikusa. I'm here today with Yoshiko Kamikusa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I don't ever kind of hide what we talk about beforehand. Did I say your name correctly?
Yes, it was perfect. You nailed it.
All right. Well, I guess it would be kind of awkward if you're like, nah, that was not how we practiced. No, but we're obviously going to talk about ballet and you being a professional ballet dancer. But before we get to that, just tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you just came back from Japan, where you have some family you were visiting, but just talk a little bit about Yoshiko.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Tokyo, Japan, and I actually moved to Hawaii when I was 6. The relocation was just because of my dad getting a job there, and my mom she loves Hawaii, so she wanted me to kind of grow up there. So I did elementary there, and then I actually moved to Canada, where I actually started pursuing more professional ballet training. And then when I was 18, I got my first contract with a professional ballet company called the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, which is situated in Winnipeg, Canada. And then I danced there for 5 seasons before coming to Indianapolis to be a founding company member with Indianapolis Ballet.
Yeah, and I want to kind of talk about those early days of ballet, but I guess that kind of just shows how much ballet is ingrained in you, because I asked you tell me about life outside of ballet. It didn't take but maybe 30 seconds before it got switched to ballet again. So tell us about some of the things that you like doing outside of ballet, or is it really just that consumes your being?
I always have trouble with this question because yes, you're right in a sense of, and it just shows how much I love the profession and how much dedication it takes. But it's not the type of work that you can sort of leave at the studio and then just forget about it. I mean, I think it's important to have a switch, an on and off switch at a certain point, but there's just so much to think about, and there's depth, and you can always improve in terms of technique, artistry. There's a lot of that. So yes, a majority of my time is spent thinking about my career and what the art form requires. But I guess how I would spend my lazy weekends would be just binge watching Netflix or just TV shows, just to sort of shut my mind off in a sense. I do like, getting coffee with some friends, maybe, and just resting, really. It does take a lot of you physically and emotionally, this work. So rest is definitely important too.
Well, I get that for sure, for sure. So tell us, what's the proper term? Is it ballet dancer? Obviously, everyone knows ballerina. What's the right term? Is that? I mean, I really don't know.
Honestly, both of those terms are great. I think a lot of us like to put professional ballet dancer just because there are so many people who don't know or understand that ballet is an actual profession.
I get you. I get you. So you talked about that first, your first stop in Canada, but let's maybe take a step just a little further back and what got you into ballet to begin with? Because I feel like so many, kids go to ballet class and maybe they do it for a few years and then they move on to jazz and hip hop and then, t-ball or something. So what made you, I guess, stick with it? And this is your profession. So talk about those early years.
Absolutely. When I was 7, my parents actually took me to a local ballet studio in Hawaii. Funnily enough, you would think I would do Hawaiian hula or something, but I did ballet. And I just so happened that my mom mostly wanted me to take part in some form of exercise, but not gymnastics, because she wanted an element of artistry to it too. By the way, my parents, neither of them are ballet dancers or any sort of athletes. So that's has nothing to do with it. But I think she just wanted physical activity and artistry to be in my life. And, I was a pretty obedient child. I think I just went when they took me to lessons, but I think I just didn't oppose at that point. And I just kept going and it became like tradition and a habit. And I guess I liked it. And so I stuck with it. And I think the moment I knew I wanted to be a professional, or like how I wanted to make it a profession, was probably when I was 11. That was when I went to my first international ballet competition. And I saw all these incredibly talented dancers that were basically my age, but technically I wasn't as far along. So that kind of inspired me to see what I could be if I took on professional training. So as soon as I graduated elementary school, I moved to a more professional ballet setting in Canada. So
I gotcha. What was it like, I guess, kind of making that move? Obviously, beforehand, you're competing at a high level, I'm sure, with some of these competitions, but to actually now take it professional, be paid to do what you love. How did that step feel?
Well, I think first of all, meeting my very amazing and talented teachers at the school in Vancouver. It was named Go Ballet Academy. So they were principal dancers with the Leningrad Ballet, which was also another very big company. And they just opened my eyes to just not only, of course, technique, because they did drill me on that very much in training, but they taught me what dance with a soul, or just soulful dancing, looks like. And they really taught me how to express myself. And I think that was the biggest step that I personally, I guess, received from them in order to become the professional that I wanted to be. So I think that helped me stand out in my career. So I really owe a lot to them.
Absolutely, for sure. So I want to kind of break it down. I've asked Olympic gold medalists and professionals and a lot of other sports kind of to really go down to the bare bones. Some people like this, but the listeners definitely do. But tell us exactly what ballet is. We're talking so much about ballet, and some people, I assume most people, unless you live in a box, but I assume most people know ballet. But just tell us exactly what it is. It may be kind of cool to hear the perspective of somebody who does it at such a high level.
Sure. So ballet, just a tiny bit of history. It was a formalized form of dance with its origins in Italian Renaissance courts during the 15th and 16th centuries. And it spread from Italy to France with the help of Catherine de' Medici, where ballet developed even further under her aristocratic influence. And so that's kind of why the French vocabulary or terms that we use in ballet are so predominant, because it kind of spread first in France, but originated in Italy. I guess the best way to describe it is, it's known for its standing up on point, on top of our toes. That's probably a signature that I think everyone is familiar with. And perhaps the classical tutus, which are the, skirts that are made of tulle that extend from the dancer's hips, which the women wear mostly, but with a bodice. So that's like the classical tutu look that you would normally see in ballets like Sleeping Beauty, Swan Lake, and just traditional ballets like that. So I think those are some of the, easy to understand symbols of ballet, I suppose. In terms of movement, I think there's this bit of regal elegancy because it originated in aristocratic roots. But it's ever evolving. It is a very historical and traditional form of dance, but with just everything that's evolving in terms of, the age and era that we're in right now, with everything sometimes becoming modernized. We have different, branches of classical ballet, if you will, where you kind of deviate from the very proper structure of the classical positions and make it more contemporary fused or modern or jazzy. So there's definitely improvements and evolvement in ballet as well. So it's not stagnant, although it is very heavily rooted in traditional classical roots.
And you talked about kind of the tutus, and that's obviously mostly worn by female ballet dancers. This is kind of a separate question, but how hard is it to get males into the profession? Is it something that it is a struggle? Because obviously a lot of people look at ballet, for better or worse, as a female dominated profession. But it shouldn't be that way. Is there an issue with finding, male dancers, or is there plenty and, you're able to weed out the cream of the crop?
Yeah, I think it's always a kind of a prolonged issue that, boys or male dancers, they have the stigma that it's just not a manly thing to do. But then, with all this, progress and just difference in perspective nowadays with gender and how that's defined for everyone, I think we've become so much more open-minded and just willing to see new ways and not just stereotype gender roles. But it is a fine line because, again, it is so historical. And I think there's a lot of people who love the art form because of its traditional roots. But then I think there is room for all these changes that we can welcome. And I do think ballet is headed into a very very new direction, I guess. For your original question, I think it just takes a little bit of courage for some male dancers to stick to ballet. If they love it, they'll do it no matter what. There's actually quite a few male dancers who are really just promoting dance for boys and to stop bullying and harassing for if they have an interest in it, because there's nothing wrong with it. And it's actually a very athletic and difficult thing for men because they partner all the time. They have women over their heads and, it's not an easy, there's nothing, silly about it. So,
no, absolutely, for sure. But talk about how you made it how you decided to come to Indianapolis and then also to kind of be a founding member of, the professional ballet scene here. I don't know a ton of history about, Indianapolis Ballet. I know that there's only been a few years that we had a professional group. I don't know whether we ever have in the past, or this is really the first one, but I feel like it takes a special kind of person to uproot themselves and not go to an established company. You're kind of being a founding member. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool because my professional career started with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet, which was my previous company. And they have a history about 76 or 7 years now. So it's a very, very old company, and they have much longer history, which is wonderful. And I learned so much from my experiences there. But in 2018, I had this opportunity to come to Indianapolis, which I got through an audition, because normally that's how you get a job offer, like with any, say, Broadway or theater, anything like that. So I just sent in my audition to the artistic director, and she just happened to take a real liking to me, and we had the same visions. And it was a risk coming here because a new company can fold at any time. And I mean, we've been through a pandemic. I mean, still going through a pandemic right now, so that has been hard on the arts scene, but nevertheless, we're still going strong. And so I guess my relationship with my director was just something that I really look forward to here, and debuted in 2018. And I actually believe there was a professional ballet company before Indianapolis Ballet in Indiana. I believe it was called Ballet International, but it folded, I want to say 10, 15 years ago. That could be wrong. And then our current artistic director, she actually opened a school, Indianapolis School of Ballet, in 2006, I want to say. So she built the school first, so it has about 10 or I want to say maybe 15 years history, the school. And then she, in 2018, felt it was time to build the company that she's always wanted. So that's when our, I guess, company started.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you came from Canada to Indianapolis. I'd hate for you to have been, in the Sarasota Ballet and then have to deal with this. So, it's not as bad as some areas, but I'm sure you're used to some of the cold weather in Canada.
Just so happens that Winnipeg is probably one of the coldest in Canada as well. I think it was one of the top 5 coldest cities in the world, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
So I have been to the ends of the earth. There in Hawaii would be quite a contrast.
Yeah, there's the move that I'm sure shocked your system from Hawaii to Winnipeg.
I did have Vancouver in between. Yeah. So it was a little bit of a cushion before I went into the plunging tundra.
Yeah, that's crazy for sure. So, the Indianapolis Ballet is just a few years old. Obviously, when it comes to, any kind of arts and definitely in a mid-sized city like Indianapolis, it is, I'm sure it's an interesting kind of thing to undertake. Hopefully things are going well. I guess this isn't the time to say, I don't know, it's not going so well, but hopefully things are going
true.
well.
Yeah, I think it is going well. Sure, Indianapolis isn't San Francisco or New York, and they may not have the most diversified arts scene, and they may not be as familiar with ballet. But I feel like in the past, few years that we've been active, we've received great feedback, and I think the community really appreciates what we do. And especially during this time when, things are, a little uncertain and dark and confusing for so many people, I feel like what we do really makes a difference and makes their lives just a little bit more joyful and happy and I guess inspirational in a way. So I think we're doing really well. We're pretty proud of what we've done so far, and we just we hope that we'll keep it up.
Absolutely. So, anytime I talk to someone, like talk to some Irish dancers, I've talked to people who do other kind of sport, and then also, cosplay and all kinds of stuff. I always like to kind of hear about in some things it's costuming, but in this is not necessarily a costume, but tell us just a little bit about the ballet shoes, or something that are very, I don't know. I don't really see them as a shoe. I know we talked a little bit about that. So what exactly, how does that work?
So I actually have some on hand right here, just so it might be easier for me to explain.
Yeah.
So the box, this is the box at
So
the top.
The front is a flat front.
Yeah, it is a rigid enclosure at the front of the shoe that encases and supports the dancer's toes. And the platform is flat so that the dancer can balance and just make things a little bit smoother when they go on top of their toes. Conventionally, the box is made from a tightly packed, or not from tightly packed layers of paper and fabric that have been glued together and shaped into this enclosure. When the glue dries, it hardens. So it provides the stiffness that we need for the support. And then we have the sole here of the shoe, which is usually made from a piece of leather. And then in the inside, there is a thing called a shank, which is also normally made from leather, sometimes plastic, cardstock. The flexibility of this shank, it usually is determined by its thickness and the type of material used. And then the entire shoe is covered with fabric, which conceals all the box and the inside elements. And then it's usually satin and pink. Although right now, because we're supporting people of all colors and diversity, they have started making it in darker colors, or just to accommodate people's skin. So that's been really a really cool experience. So yeah. So for me, I wear a thing called a toe sack. I wear this on top of my big toe. And then I put spacers in between, and then I put the toe pad on, and then I insert my foot into the shoe. And then the shoes at the beginning, they just come like just the shoe. So they don't have the elastic and the ribbons on them. The elastic, so when you put your when you put your foot in your shoe, you need the support to keep your foot in with the elastic. I do mine's crisscross. Some people do it just across. Again, that's individual. And then we have things called ribbons on both sides of the shoe, which we tie around our ankle so that it gives us extra support around the ankles, because a lot of our work we do with pointing our feet, and we need that support when we go up. So yeah, I guess that's
no, for sure,
the best way.
Hopefully that's you did an awesome job as far as explaining it. Obviously, it's a little harder when it's it's verbally rather than actually able to, for the viewers and listeners to see. So yeah, I appreciate that for sure. What's the kind of cost that go into this? I feel like I've seen somewhere that really good ballet shoes are not a cheap thing.
They are not. That is actually a frequent question that's been asked. It varies again from the different types of brands of shoes, but generally they can cost anywhere from $75 a pair to $125, and that's per pair. Again, depending on the dancer, they can crush that, or like the shoe can lose its life, which means it gets too soft and it can't be used anymore within a day. Some people. For me, that doesn't happen. It just depends on how strong your arch is and other aspects of how much dancing you do and things like that. But for me, it personally lasts about a week a pair. So that's pretty reasonable for most. So if you think a pair a week is usually at least for me, the general line. But some people, like I said, they can use the shoe and it can be good for only a day, possibly a few hours. So,
oh my goodness. I assume that if it's that much and that frequent, that's something that's built into a lot of people's, contracts or whatever. I'm sure you're not having to cover these costs. At least I hope so.
No. So that's the biggest difference between a professional and a student. Professional companies, they normally provide you with at least a certain number of shoes, or some big companies, they may have the funds to provide unlimited shoes as necessary. But most companies, they have a bit of a limit. But yes, shoes are provided by the company. Students, so when we were students, our parents definitely took a hit because those things are expensive. And I know my parents have paid a lot out of their pocket to support my ballet training. It is very expensive. So I think I'm just happy that I just made it into a profession, because they put out a lot for me to make this happen.
Absolutely. As a, an amateur, is there shoes that you can wear longer, or is it really a week for even the amateurs at it?
Honestly, the shank of the shoe, or the box of the shoe, there are different stiffnesses, so it can be harder or softer depending on how flexible or how strong your foot is. So for me, I don't have the most archiest foot, but I have a strong enough foot to make the articulation and all of that footwork. But my shoe doesn't die as quickly as others. Some people who have a very high arch have a more difficult time managing the lifespan of their shoe, just because their feet are so strong that it can just break the shoe really quickly. But as an aesthetic, ballet is all about that beautifully pointed arched foot. So there are pros and cons to it.
Yeah, well, I like the shoe doesn't die. I think that's a funny way to put it. I think that's cool. So let's get beyond the shoes. I that's definitely something that I think a lot of people kind of wonder about, just because they are, they're a very specialized shoe, and one that people, it allows you to do something that's not natural to most people, which is to be able to get up on your tippy toes. So, let's talk about maybe some things that would surprise people about being a professional ballet dancer.
I think, I guess the longevity of the profession, to be honest. Again, that's also individual in a sense, but I think a lot of people think it's just something that you do maybe in your 20s and then you're done. At least that's kind of how I've been met with some people. But if you're a very good dancer and you don't have career, or you're lucky enough to not have career-ending injuries, you could possibly go up to late 30s, 40s, or early 40s. So it's not as short as I'd say like a Olympic gymnast, if they would be finished before their 30s. But again, if you do have a career-ending injury, it's very possible that, you could finish very early on. But I always feel like, because our careers do have a time limit, we do have the possibility of second careers and anything we wanted if we put our minds to it. So
yeah, and that's something I always ask athletes, is just the longevity of the sport that they're in, and what the plan is afterwards, because there's a lot of Olympic athletes I've talked to that you're an old person on the team if you're 30 and still there.
Yeah.
So that second career is something that's really big for most athletes, and it sounds like maybe it's maybe a decade later for ballet, but definitely not taking you to retirement age. So what are most people doing as a second career from being a professional? Is it something that a lot of people go and teach ballet at a school? Is it something that people are going and becoming firemen, or what are most people doing outside of once they leave?
I mean, I want to say that teaching is definitely a very common path. I mean, we spent so much of our lives learning about it, so it's pretty normal for us to pass it on, the information as teachers, or as ballet, we call it masters, but they're kind of like coaches for a company. Or they could become artistic directors, or if they want to stay in this realm of ballet. But some people especially if they had experience with injuries, they might become physical therapists or personal trainers or maybe even yoga instructors. I don't know, but the possibilities are endless. Or some people just choose to not have anything to do with ballet anymore, and they might just start a whole new, I guess, maybe they would go back to school and get a degree in business or something, and then start a company on their own. So honestly, everyone does very different things. So
Yeah. So you talked about the injuries. Let's talk about some of those common injuries. Again, you're doing something that's not necessarily the most natural, so I'm sure that comes with injuries. So what are some common injuries to ballet dancers?
I would say ankle sprains are very common, just because we're on our toes, and there's a lot of stress on our calves and lower extremities. ACL tears, the ligaments in our knees. If some people just dislocate their knees pretty quickly too. Hip tears, maybe. And for men, I would say shoulder impingements or back problems, just from all the lifting and heavy loading. So things like that are very common.
Yeah. So what does the typical day look like as somebody who is professional ballet dancer? I'm sure it varies depending on, whether there's a show coming up, but is it something that I assume you're going and practicing every day, but just kind of describe those typical days.
So for our company, we, on a normal rehearsal schedule, we would go from Monday to Friday, generally from 9:30 to 5, but those hours could differ if you're not in a certain rehearsal or not needed that day, just depending on the repertoire or performance rehearsals that we need. So we always start the day with class from 9:30 to 11, which is basically like a warm-up for us, and a place to also hone your technique and make sure that we're ready for the day ahead with our rehearsals for the shows. When it's performance week, we would normally start from Tuesday. So we would have the weekend and Monday off because we would go until Sunday for the shows, because normally our shows are on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we would probably have later start days around 11, 12-ish, and then go later until like 9 or so. And we would have like stage rehearsals before shows as well. So
so at this point, when you're rehearsing for a show, is it learning the moves and making sure you've got them all memorized? Excuse me, are you still at a point that you're ever actually learning new technique? I assume maybe you are, but which one is it more? Memorizing these moves because you've already pretty much got all the technique down, or are you still learning technique as a professional?
I want to say both, because choreography can differ even for traditional classical ballets. Again, like I said, Swan Lake, Sleeping Beauty, versions can differ among companies. So if you haven't practiced or are familiar with a Petipa version of Don Quixote, because you've only done the Nureyev version or something like that, you would have to learn new parts or new choreography. And then again, different roles, say if you're a leading role or if you're in the ensemble or things like that. So I think memorizing and learning choreography will always be a process, unless you've done the part a couple of times, but there's always something new to learn, even with the steps too. Technically, you're always learning new things, because our bodies are just never, we work every day to make sure that we can control our bodies as much as possible, but we're human. There's definitely going to be off days, no matter how hard we train. And so I guess the reason why we rehearse so much is to try and get that consistency to say at least to a level of want to say 85, 90%. I think that would be great. And that way you're ready for even when you're tired or when you are having an off day, it's still at a pretty good level when you do those shows. I mean, with shows, there's the added pressure of an audience, of costumes, of lighting and nerves and all of that. So you have to make sure that the technique will be there for you by the time you get there. But the process is always never ending. And I think that's what's so interesting and at times frustrating with this profession, because there's no such thing as perfection. But again, I think that's the beauty of live performance as well. So that's what kind of makes ballet, strangely, in a way, although it's like an ethereal sort of thing, and there's a bit of perfection, I suppose, that kind of is thought of about the ballet, but it's also very human because of our capabilities as human beings, I guess. So
yeah, no, I think that's an awesome way to put it, for sure. So I've been to two. I live in Indianapolis. I've been to two of the Indianapolis Ballet performances. A couple years ago, I don't know the years, but a couple years ago, I went to. Oh man, I knew this and now I've already forgotten. What did I go to? You don't know, do you?
We do quite several shows. So if you could give me a year and maybe a month.
I'm kidding. It was around Valentine's Day.
Okay. It could be a mixed program, Firebird, Rubies, Paquita.
I don't know. Who knows? I knew it beforehand. I should have written it down, but I went to one.
That's okay.
One then, and then this year I went to the Nutcracker, which is a huge thing. That's the whole reason that I decided to reach out to you. This is something I'm sure you weren't necessarily going to say, but just to kind of plug you, I feel like most of the shows I've seen, you're kind of one of the leads. You're probably one of the better people in the company. So I guess the question, and I give you kind of that compliment because I'm going to ask you one of the hardest questions probably. And that is,
okay,
what are some of your favorite favorite performances, favorite things that you do, and then some of your least favorite? Because I feel like the one that I feel like would probably be the least favorite, and this is probably not the case, but is the Nutcracker, because everyone knows that one so well. It's the one that you guys go to an entirely different theater. And I feel like if I was a ballet dancer, I would hate that one, because this is the one time a year all these people that don't even know ballet come and see us, and we bust our tail and all these other things, and everyone just cares about the Nutcracker.
It's funny because it is kind of like a running joke among almost all dancers, because Nutcracker is an annual thing. And it's like, if you hear the music of the Sugar Plum Fairy in all commercials, and everyone's like, as soon as they hear that music, they're like, I want to run away. But I guess for me, especially since the pandemic happened, I feel like I have renewed appreciation for the Nutcracker, because it's a holiday classic. It's very traditional. There are different versions with different companies, but the story is often across the board quite similar. But I think there's something about the magic of us performing the Nutcracker during such a special time of year. And I know it's so accessible to families and basically anyone who wants an introduction to ballet. And I think that's a great thing. And I feel like, yes, it's the same music. Yes, it's normally the same choreography for us every year. I still manage to find new things about it. And it is, I guess it's magical in a way. It always is. So I don't mind it anymore. I used to have a lot of shows sometimes with back in Row, Winnipeg. We would have almost a whole month of Nutcracker. And that, by the 28th show, you were like, okay, I don't want to do it anymore. There may have been days like that, but Not recently. Recently, I feel like every show is special and I do my best to deliver because every audience that comes is different. And I think everyone deserves the same amount of effort as a performer. That I should put the same amount of effort into it. So, yeah.
Well, I like that answer. I do feel like it was very politically correct. I'm not sure whether you've truly told me what your least favorite thing that you
That's
do
right.
is.
Least favorite. Honestly, I don't have a least favorite. Honestly, I prefer story ballets over, say, things very neoclassical or new work. But that's just me. I still, love working with choreographers and doing new works. So it just depends. But I can't say I have things that I hate. I don't. So,
Or that you don't want to put on the record.
yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah. So I looked it up. The ballet that the other ballet I saw was you mentioned one of them. I think it was a combo of a bunch. Love is in the Air, which was Ruby's Anya's song, and then Tango Forever. That's the one.
Yes.
That's the other one.
That was actually right before the pandemic, I think.
Okay. That was your least favorite. That's what you described.
No, because that would have probably been a highlight of that year, because after that we went into lockdown. So
yeah, no, I got you. So do you have any favorites?
My favorite is Swan Lake and Don Quixote. I can't dispute that. Something about Swan Lake, it's probably odd for a human being to portray a swan, but Tchaikovsky's music and just the story, it's a fairy tale. So I love it. Don Quixote is also another classic. It's very different from Swan Lake. It's a lot more earthy, grounded. She's, the main girl is a town girl. So, she has this flair and she has a Spanish heritage and she's very fiery. So I love that about her. So that's more of a fun ballet, but yeah, I think those two would be my favorites.
Is there any ballets that have, you are obviously already doing so much. So let me just throw more on the ballet dancer. Is there any ballets that have, spoken word, or is it all music and dancing?
Ooh. At least traditional ballets never have spoken words, but with like contemporary or modern pieces, they may have, depending on the choreographer. And sometimes they might use songs too. So that's possible. But generally you wouldn't see, say, singing or talking in Swan Lake, stuff like that. Yeah.
Are you ready to sign up for one of those? Act and also sing as well? Is that something that's in your wheelhouse?
I don't foresee that. I very much prefer keeping my mouth shut, as funny as that is. I love, expressing through body language and gestures. For some reason, that just speaks better to me. But I'm working on the talking bit. But yeah, that's definitely not, at least not singing. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I only kid. I mean, even though there's not words, sometimes you forget because it is very, the dancing is very expressive. And I feel like, there's sometimes that there are, the story is definitely carried well through the dance. So I don't want to discount that at all. I think that's awesome. And it's just shows the talent in, most professional ballet dancers, that they're able to convey what they are without ever really even saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how, I guess you mentioned all these things that people can do in the future. I don't know exactly how old you are, how long you plan on continuing as a professional ballet dancer, but what does the future hold for you, both as a ballet dancer and then also after that?
I mean, life rarely works out as you plan it. I found that all throughout my life. I'm 26, by the way. And I hope to keep going at least until my late 30s. I think I've taken good care of my body, and I think I'll be able to go to that age. And I also want to end at my peak rather than me declining. Because I think I want to be remembered as, as the dancer that I was at my peak. So I wouldn't want to force myself to continue just for the sake of continuing. For the future, I think I've actually recently gotten certified as a personal trainer, which I also have to recertify every 2 years because of all the knowledge about, exercise and movement and all that. But I would actually love to help just adults and older adults in general too, just to sort of promote health and the importance of exercise and how it plays a role in, preventing so much diseases and just prolongs your life because you're just healthier. So I would love to just, I guess, give back to the community in that sense after I finish my dancing career. It's not solidified yet, but I think learning about the body, and I love anatomy. So I would love to dig a little deeper into that and see if I could help other people, not necessarily dancers, but just like regular people, and just see if I can make a difference in the community that way. Yeah.
Nothing but the best with both of those. Tell us how we can connect with you. Obviously, if you're in the Indianapolis area, check out you can plug the Indianapolis Ballet. But I mean, in being honest, 90% of the people that listen are from places pretty far away to catch a show. So maybe just plug yourself, and you can plug the company too if you want.
Yeah, sure. Well, I suppose my public Instagram, it's at Yoshiko Kamikusa, and the company's Instagram is at Indie Ballet. I post as much as I can and promote our shows and sometimes the process as well. So feel free to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was Yoshiko Kamikusa. Learned a ton from her just about ballet in general. I've been to a few ballets, definitely not an expert, but learning about, that art form was really, really cool. Learning about the day in and day out world of being a professional and that being your full-time job. It's an interesting perspective, an interesting thing to learn about. Glad Yoshiko agreed to join me. I do urge you, check out wherever you're from, check out your local ballet, check out your local, art forms in any form, if you will. I think that's a huge thing. I think that supporting your local arts is always a really cool thing, and you're seldom disappointed when you go to a play or a ballet and just kind of see that talent. No difference here. If you do happen to be in the Indianapolis area, the Indianapolis Ballet puts on some amazing performances. Do urge you to check them out. Check out your local ballet, as I mentioned. Check out Yoshiko's Instagram and those connection points she shouted out. Those will be in the show notes. Of course, check us out. Not Enough Podcast on Instagram, Not Enough with Jackson Huff on Facebook, jacksonhuff.com, all of those areas. Appreciate that. If you haven't already, do subscribe, follow on Spotify and Apple. Leave that 5-star review, write a review. That's even more awesome. But glad you're here. If this is your first time, go check out some previous episodes. Interviewed all kinds of amazing people. But I hope you stick around. Hope to see you next week. And take it away, Chris.
This has been Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us next time, where we will interview another amazing guest who is sure to make you laugh or make you think. Or, hey, maybe even both. But until then, keep being awesome.